A great pleasure to be with you all this evening. The team have deliberately set the theme of tonight as the state of practice. So while I'm going to kick off with a few questions, you might want to be thinking of some of your own and try and see if you can keep them about connecting these particular practices. If you've got very specific technical questions, you might want to grab one of them at the end for that kind of question. But really, it was wonderful to listen to you all. And one of the ideas that came through very strongly was this idea of the local. And I wondered if maybe quickly all of you might want to answer, what does it really mean to be local architecturally for you, for your practice, for the practice you work in and with? You can kick us off if you like, Peter.
Local, Joe and I have had this conversation in depth. I always think of the idea of Indigenous, what Indigenous means, and further local, and does local just mean someone who's willing to invest themselves and their time and effort into a place and establish roots into their place? Does that make them local? Yeah.
That's taupo.
Yeah, taupo turangi, but exactly. I think of, when I think of local, I think of you being able to call a place home, and you contributing to that community.
And do you think that extends to our buildings as well in some way?
Yeah, as a way of contributing to the community, I think can express those ideas and into their field. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the feeling of being at home is one of the most essential parts of being a human being, to be honest, that feeling of security and that this is a place you belong, your whakapapa, and all of that. I mean, there's so much, how can I put it, global influences in our world today through the internet and your phones and everything, that there's something, I think we need an antidote to that and make sure that we really feel like this is our unique place. And it definitely comes through in the architecture of this place. It's sometimes hard when you're immersed in it yourself to see it objectively, but I think if you can step outside, and people like Jessica, architectural historians, people who can see the big picture, it's really fascinating to listen to, I think, and see what makes this place special.
Thanks. I agree with everything you say, but I'd also like to say I don't think you have to be born here or to contribute. We're architects, and it's important, the place and people, and as long as we can connect with those. I remember being highly irritated seeing a political slogan for a politician saying, I was born here. I mean, what? It was around the time of the earthquakes. And I'm there with, my two girls who you've seen in those pictures. They are not born here, and neither is my husband. But it doesn't mean that this isn't their home or they can't contribute. The architects who worked on the chapel at St Andrews College, most of them live in Auckland. They can still connect with people in place, and I think that's the most important thing.
Gosh, it's getting harder and harder to answer this as it goes along. I totally agree with all of these. And just to build on Peter's, we were talking about, your architecture. What does it mean for your architecture to be local? And I think personifying it helps, right? Like, if you move into a neighbourhood, when do you consider yourself local? You've met your neighbours, you've contributed back into the community. So is your architecture doing that? Is it briefing outside its site? Is it giving back to the community? That's where I'd go with the architectural answer.
We used to talk quite a lot about differences between, say, public and community architecture, as well as like public being very broad, kind of for anybody, and then community being much more specific and actually fundamentally kind of exclusive. And I think there's very gentle layers that come into a place, and if you burrow into any project, you find those things that are intrinsically about the people who are involved, the place that it is, and it's just a goldmine of stuff to respond to that makes it kind of belong in a whole number of ways, if that makes sense. It's practice.
Clients are enormously important in this equation because they have knowledge.
Hello. You've got some wonderful ideas, but I think we might just try and encourage the panel to have this time. Thank you. I was thinking, does this mean that there is a local architecture, in which case, what are its characteristics that the current state of practice? Oh, no one wants to answer the questions that they all committed to being here to answer.
I think I'd rather go first anyway.
Well, I mean, does not come out of nowhere because many of you referred to them in your presentations.
Yeah, no, I think it's the joint. It's the collaboration, the co-design effort, just results in that local architecture, whether it could look in a lot of different ways, but if the intent's there, I think that's what creates the good local architecture, whatever that looks like.
So it's process rather than outcome, output.
I think, to reference a wonderful movie, Maurice and I, but I was quite struck by the different climate in which the decision-making was occurring back then, which Sir Miles referred to himself. Is this unpolitic to say? It was a bunch of white men in a room making decisions, which we don't have anymore. And it is a more diverse world that we live in. And so I think the idea of kind of a singular language of place, which is somehow something that architecture likes to seek, is kind of a bit of a misnomer. That's not to say that you can't be of this place, but it's also not a single answer. What is it? Be suspicious of simple answers to complex questions. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's incredibly complex to pin it down. I mean, it's like everything under the sun. It's climate, it's soil, it's history, it's tradition, it's culture, it's personalities. It just goes on and on. You know it when you go somewhere. You go to Italy, you go to Asia. You can see a different vibe, a different atmosphere. But it's just incredibly complex to sort of pin it down. You try, and some of us have talked about some aspects of it, but it's just so rich. It's you can't just sum it up in a sentence. But it's really exciting to try to work with it and do something with it.
At the risk of being the stupid person making this simple comment, I'd say not stupid. Possibly. I mean, what he said is process, and what Jasper has said is context, and that's I suppose what I was talking about. And context covers so much, and process also covers, what we do in the studio, how we collaborate, everyone we talk to, everyone we work with. It's 2 words, but there's a lot of stuff behind it.
And I think it's okay for it to evolve as well. We don't have to define it at the end.
So does that mean it's different to practice here in Ōtautahi or in Waitaha than it is in other parts of Aotearoa?
I was looking at that when I was looking at our process as architects, which we've been around for 35 years, and you couldn't say that we have a style. Some architects, maybe you can determine a style, but we definitely have a way of working and process. So I think, and that's not too different anywhere we work around the country. So I think it is the context and the people that we're working with that make the difference.
Does anyone have a different point of view to that about whether it's, because Jane's saying it's the context that and the people that change it rather than practice itself? Is it different to practice? Does anyone else want to have a different answer? That's just for architects. who have their own embedded traditions that they bring.
Yeah, once again, it's very complex, but I look up at Auckland and Northland, and they seem to be looking more towards the Pacific, dare I say it, than we do. We do to a certain extent, but it's a different climate, culture, ethnicity mix. All those things start to influence the type of buildings we end up with. So, once again, no easy answer.
I have a friend who's an architect in the tropics. And he's like, oh, I feel sorry for you. We've got so much freedom here. We don't have to, these rules and all these tested systems and everything you have to play with. We just, make things and insulation and all of this. But I remember asking whether he wanted to work together here, and he says, oh, it'd be like learning another language. I don't have the energy to do it. And I remember reflecting on that thing where it's like you're learning a whole another way of life and so on. And I think that's very, very interesting and intriguing, and back into the processes and context. Like it's almost like traveling and so on to find what these outcomes are. But it's it takes a lot of sensitivity and brain power and humility and all sorts of things. We're doing work in Kiribati, and we're not from Kiribati, so you kind of wanting to avoid like neo-colonial patterns and all of these things, but you also have to respect the practices and the kind of the skills that you have and what that can bring, and that's where the genuine partnerships and so on start to become very, very fruitful and interesting. Sorry, that's quite long.
Yeah, just an anecdote from a project in Dunedin, the ACC building, where we were, there are things that are set in your context that drive what is local, and things that are fluid in terms of process and the way technology moves and adapts. In this particular project, we'd gone deep on the study of the heritage facades that were our neighbours. And when we met with mana whenua, Okaha down there, because it was part of the district plan, we went deep on that. They said, well, actually, no, that's not our heritage. Here's what happened on site before then. And that really changed it. The whole project pivoted from that point on. And so I think we're probably still trying to uncover and unearth what it is to be local. And that's exciting.
That's a wonderful segue, thank you, Joseph, into my next question, which is, one of the things that's marked out the state of practice since the earthquakes is architecture's relationship here and consideration and involvement of mana whenua and the place of Indigenous design in architecture, which is so completely different to how it was pre-earthquake. I just wondered, even in the time since the earthquake, the 13 and a half, it's that sort of involvement and process has changed. Does anyone want to reflect on that as well?
Yeah, this is my favourite thing, because watching that develop, all the kind of buzzwords change and develop as well. But I think kind of a bit of a silver lining, just post earthquake, there was just room to try things and just everyone had the right intent. So it was just developing a natural evolution of that co-design, which is what we try and keep our thumb on and keep ahead of, and just simply because of the amazing projects it produces, that effort.
Yeah, I think it's been one of the best things to come out of the earthquake, actually, and it really has enriched our architecture and our environment. I think and to be honest, it feels like we're only really starting on that journey too. I think there's a long way to go, and it's quite exciting to watch it, I think.
Yeah, I just echo that, and just the fact that it provides so much more opportunity as well to collaborate and incorporate other people's ideas, and we can always learn on that journey.
Yeah, I'd just add that probably as a group of architects, we'd be incredibly grateful for the time that mana whenua have given to develop their processes and share their histories. Like I remember probably the smallest project ever on Waranamani's book is a $30,000 clock tower in Kaikoura, and we were, exploring the idea then pre-quake with what a bicultural clock tower might look like. And, it was tough to find the right person and have them dedicate their time, whereas now there's some amazing groups out there that are really pouring energy into it, and it's super enriching for us as architects, I would say.
And, we had, it has gone through different iterations locally here, starting off with the statutory, the fact that Ngāi Tahu were written into the statute as a partner in the rebuild, and then flowing through Matapōpiri and now into working more, I guess, directly with the Runanga. And of course, you've got the larger practices, Warren in particular, and JASMAX, have internal design units, which you talked about, Peter. How does it, obviously that drives the process in a different way to how it might for some of the other practices. Having listened to how Peter talked about it, what does that change your own aspirations as practices? Does it shift the state of practice, having an internal Indigenous design unit?
It's something we definitely looked at, but in the end we have worked to collaborate with other groups, and obviously quite reasonably successful on Tūranga with the Matapōpiri Trust, but also we've got a partnership with a group of young Māori designers who we are working on several projects with, and hopefully one will be in Aotearoa soon. But can't promise yet. But also, we've worked with Design Tribe. And that Erskine building from more than 25 years ago was co-designed with Royal Associates, Perry Royal. So this is something that Architectus has been doing for a very long time.
Cool. It was fantastic listening to you, in particular talking about your relationships in that collaborative process. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I really got this picture which made me very heartened, because no one, excuse me if there are any here, no one mentioned the words project manager. And, I was thinking how fortunate we are that we've had, and you've had, a collection of clients who absolutely trust architects. And I got this picture of architects as the conductor of a multidisciplinary orchestra that includes the client and the contractor, the way Joseph was talking. Architects really have to know everything. And how does this impact practice today? Whether as individuals or as studios? And is it answer that question first.
Frame it up again, Jess. What was the very first bit?
Architects says, I thought this idea had died with, the rise of the project manager. Come on. Miles used to have a conversation with the city architect every week about the town hall, just directly with the client, on the phone, or in person. And, we've seen a different period. And I got this picture from all of you of very close, intense relationships where you orchestrated a whole lot of other relationships. Yeah, is that true? Is that the state of practice?
For the chapel, it was true, but it was unusual. That's probably the only project in the last 10 years I've worked on with an NZIA contract. So Malcolm Bowes in the Auckland studio worked as my project manager. It was awesome.
Cool.
But we're capable of doing it, but it's not as common as it used to be.
I think to be fair to project management,
far more politic than me.
They're one of these groups that if you don't hear about them, they're probably doing a really good job. And there were some fantastic project managers and behind the scenes at Lincoln, both on the client side and kind of managing the contract. And that goes to, I suppose, each key member of each organisation that was part of that project. We had a hui at the beginning and sat down with the consultant team and just went around the room, what do you want to get out of this project? And hearing that response, you were able to understand where each person is coming from when you're in a meeting and you're in a tense situation. And, everybody brought their A game to that project, from structural engineers. Lees were amazing as well, because we were, as a consultant team, essentially underneath them, and they had their own project managers too. So, I think, yes, we've got a big role to play and advocate for it. And, the more you can see eye to eye with somebody where they're coming from, the easier it is to make those seamless processes happen.
Thank you.
About shared values.
Shared values.
Yeah, I would agree with Joseph. I think in our experience, there's been good project managers and terrible project managers. Good ones stay in their lane and actually help and facilitate the project. There are some project managers who literally get in the way between the architect and the client. And we've had some cases where we weren't even allowed to talk to the client other than through the project manager. I mean, it was just ridiculous, And so, it's horses for courses. But building today with all the regulations, all the complexities of it, sometimes a good project manager is actually really helpful. We can means we can just do the bits that we're good at, which is the architecture. So I welcome a good project manager, but get worried if you get the opposite.
I mentioned this project in Kiribati, and it's interesting at the onset, they quite often start with these naive questions, and we were one step in the structure, the project structure, we were one step removed from the stakeholder group, which was young people in Kiribati. And as it goes through into implementation, with MFAT money and so on, it all needs to be diligently looked after, but did a quick calculation, and I think we were 8 or 9 deep away from them in terms of the processes through. And the other thing I find is we play quite an interesting role, and we know a little bit about all sorts of stuff, but if the architecture's well considered, it kind of holds all of that together, but is often deceptively simple as well. And it's we can get rid of this. It's like, no, you can't because of this. And we found the technical drawings weren't enough to defend these things. So we developed these project story things and so on to try and tell people what this is actually doing, so that it can actually hopefully survive change of client as well. Also happens. It's not just, we've gone through 4 different client representatives on that same project because they take a long time. And so the loss of information and so on is also kind of a risk, if that makes sense.
Thank you all. This is where we're going to throw it open to you all. What will happen is, because the team here are recording this, so when you can just stand up if you've got a big voice, throw your question to me, but I'll need to repeat it for the recording, not just the benefit of our panel. So, yeah. Oh, look, you get a mic. I don't have.
I get a mic. Nicole, I think I know most of you. Anyway, my question is, you talk context, you talked about process, and then you talk about Christchurch or Tautai. Now, that is the context. So if Aotearoa is the context and you have a process, would that not mean that there should be a Christchurch or Tautai architecture emerging out of this? If we leave the earthquake aside, because that is like catalyst and opportunity, but are we now at the point where we can sort of slowly put our finger on what that is? Question mark?
Yes. Well, I would hope so. I don't know about the others here in the panel, but when you're in the midst of it, it's sometimes quite hard to see the wood for the trees. So I think you need to have someone who's slightly outside looking at it and sort of seeing it as a bit in the big picture. That's my view, but I'm quite confident there is a Aotearoa architecture coming out of all of this, or has already been here and is evolving.
I think there are also some, we sometimes think, what would this building be like if it was in Wellington, for example, and say, yeah, no, it wouldn't fit. So it's quite easy on some levels. I forgot to mention, but the sky here often, Jip, is one of the most beautiful views we have. And so often it's kind of just hunkered down staring at an H4 piling fence beside us, So there's other ways that we can engage with this, whereas in a place like Wellington, it's kind of these damp, darkish. That sounds terrible, but it's got its charms. It's got its charms as well, and so there's a character that comes from the response, and I think, what am I trying to say? We talk a bit about like things being intrinsic rather than extrinsic. So we don't try to apply some notion of what it is to have a Christchurch architecture. We try to make it of this place. Like we are engaging with the sky, we are thinking about the water, we are thinking about the people and the heritage of this place. And so therefore it becomes of that. And that's where I joked before that question feels like it needs an architectural historian in the room to make sense of all the stuff that gets built.
No, go for it.
Thank you. I'm Carolyn Savage. I think all of you, except for Andrew. When you look back, the first conference after the earthquakes, you all came to Auckland. So everyone welcomed you with open arms. We wanted to make it as easy as possible. And I'm actually from the Waikato. I can actually tell you my iwi, I can tell you where my maraeas and my mountains Parongia. But the thing that was really important, we were presented a design and a vision for Christchurch. Do you think that's been lost in the way that the district plans changed? Or because there was some real vision that Peter and everyone presented to all the architects in that space, and there was some real opportunities. And I wonder, do you think we've lost some of that?
Sorry, which vision? Sorry, I'm not trying to be. The blueprint. Okay. That was a vision. And if you look at the share an idea and various things like that, I can imagine, like it seems neat and clear, but then from an internal and kind of citizenship point of view, it was extraordinarily disempowering at that time. We'd lost basically any semblance of democratic institution that we had, and there was this quite, genuine, well, it seemed, approach to actually engage with the wider city about what should happen, but there was this battle axe looming behind the. Sorry, this is all very. But behind the city council, that basically just went, okay, boom, and then we'll take over from here. Thank you very much. And so it didn't feel like it was necessarily a vision that was something that was maybe of here. Is that provocative to say?
I think, good question. Visions, the beauty of a vision is that it can evolve. I'm interested in the things that we valued quite highly about, the blueprint and some of the district plan guidelines, the height limits and the like, that I think we'd maybe thought we were collectively buying into as a city, and what changes might come in the future. I think that's going to be a really tricky one for us to navigate.
We're all waiting.
Yeah.
It's been decided. City centre is decided.
Oh, city
Last
centre.
Wednesday.
Give her a microphone.
City centre is decided. Height limit.
Last Wednesday. As of last Wednesday, city centre heights are not limited.
There you
It
go.
is easiest to do up to 28 metres, which was the post-earthquake vision. It's slightly less easy to do 28 to 45, and slightly less easy again 45 plus, but there is no upper height limit.
There you go.
What's the central city? Sorry.
What was previously known as commercial central city business zone.
Okay,
It's okay, I can't remember what I was
there's a
gonna
couple of
say.
questions down the back. Oh, Jane, did you want to answer the question? No? You sure? I saw a couple of hands down the back, and I saw one over here as well. So I've seen at least 3 more questions, which we'll try and squeeze in 6 minutes.
Okay. All right, you talked about local. I heard a lot about context, the human people context, and I was wondering what about the natural resource context? And so in the past, going a wee way back, we had Rimu and Totara and Matai forests around us. Unfortunately, they weren't harvested sustainably, and so that's gone. Then we've had a lot of stone, and we've seen with the Christchurch Cathedral, how challenging that is to use stone, earthquake-damaged city. So now we need to think about the future and, local environment. So I'd like to hear from you guys when you were exploring those buildings that you presented tonight. How did you tap into local resources?
I touched on the example at the end with just one of our jobs, which was Marion College. One of the things we talked about a lot was that the location where it was an amazing forest, the Papanui forest area in there. And the local, when we spoke to the iwi, they were really keen to try to somehow evoke that feeling. So when we started talking about doing these timber constructions, they said, "Oh, brilliant! It sort of at least gives some sort of sense of that what was there in the past, even though it's all under a warehouse roof." So yeah, it's one of the many things that often goes into the melting pot of a design. The natural environment, the cultural environment, so many things. Anyone else?
We just try to just use the materials that come from here as much as possible. So that sounds like very simple, but whether it's adobe bricks with local clay, whether it's a Darfield produced clay, bricks again, timber. There is I sense a real shift towards timber, especially now with the conversations around carbon. It turns out that the timber comes from the central North Island anyhow, but that's on a scale of things relatively close. You've got to watch. There's some hooks there, like always look out for the New Zealand-owned companies. It's like, the bricks are from Australia, but we're New Zealand owned. I hope that's not too specific. Gosh, I get uncomfortable when this is recorded. But anyhow, but yeah, I think we try to prioritise that, and also natural materials and so on as well. But it's always certain things are very good at what they do, and back to almost like permaculture principles of things doing multiple things. It's just like, look, if it's doing a lot of things. It might come from somewhere else, but that's not available here. We're going to actually use that, but we try to be quite conscious of it and communicate it with our clients and so on to at least have it in the conversation.
We are running out of time, and I know you want to ask the panel one last question, Jessica.
Okay, I do. We are going to finish on time. So the last question is, I really did have 2, and I tell you what, I'll let you choose which one you want to answer. How's that? So say which one you're going to answer, and let's do quick fire. You can either go, Jasper ended his presentation on the fact that sustainability is what should be the focus now. Is that the case for current practice, and what's going to shift it if it isn't? And then the other question is, we're sitting invited here by a School of Architectural Studies. I'm still calling it that, sorry, Robert. Thinking of the future and a new generation emerging, where are we going next? What is the future state of practice?
Directly after the earthquake, we went and visited Peter Bevan in his offices, and he was perhaps justifiably quite despondent, but we were proposing an idea, and he was Well, I suppose if there's any hope, it's in the youth, was his approach. But I think, that's the idea of a school here and some of the discussion, and I know that's part of the idea of an evening like this, is trying to look forward to those things. And it's quite heartening, the young people with the Youth Hub, the bit that's not heartening is one of the number one concerns was anxiety, and pretty much close second was climate. But it is a topical issue for young people, if not for some of the people that are in charge of this country right now. But I'm hopeful that will come through.
Yeah, I'll answer. Is that going? Sure. I'll answer the first question, is sustainability the way forward? I think the answer is yes. I would throw in two more, sustainability, culture and technology. You might have seen Peter's diagram up there, but the interactions between those three things are probably the future. Technology can influence where sustainability is going, culture can influence where sustainability is going, and vice versa, whichever way you look at that triangle. So, I'm excited about those three layers. Yeah. Accessibility to me is like structure. It's,
but isn't that sustainability of the building?
Yeah, we want to design accessible buildings that are going to be used by everybody for as long as possible. I think your questions are very much interrelated, and why not have a school here? We've just been talking about grow local, so I think, we should do it.
Yeah, I'd agree with what's been said. I think Joseph, you said the sort of youth is the future. I think Andrew said that maybe. We designed the odd school, and principals come and said, well, you realise all your pupils here are eco warriors. I mean, that's just the forefront of their mind, and I think the world is shifting, and sometimes it feels like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, or maybe two steps backwards at the moment with the current climate. But I do think the overall trend is definitely forward, and I think that is the future. And I see some of the best architecture is the ones that are not trying to, dare I say it, show off like the Garys and the Zahas of the past, but it is something that's more responsible to our planet. Yeah, and I hope it continues.
Sustainability, the overlap with my tauranga Māori that I mentioned, it's that kind of innate, intrinsic understanding of the whenua and considering yourself literally a part of it. And then we have the sustainability movement, which is just hugely technical, be able to create reports of a concept, switching out materials and creating that data, that evidence to push forward those goals. So I think when they finally converge, however that looks, is I think what everyone's excited about, because of those overlaps with heritage and the technology and te taurahiri, the rope that binds, and everyone's got different combinations of everything. But I think as they develop and we create a healthier stock of examples of these, attempts and things, I think we're headed the right way, and that's what we can be excited for, which ultimately inspires those next generations to carry on the torch and stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you all very much. And thank you all for answering all our questions that we got to today. I guess I will thank you, but actually I need to also hand the mic to Bernadette to close us off. Thanks, everyone.
Kia ora, and thank you all for the kōrero, sharing your thoughts and, really spending some time and attention on these ideas and sharing them with our audience. I'm going to invite Dr. Adam Khan to do the thank yous. Dr. Adam Khan is our head of architectural studies here at ARA, so please welcome him.
Thank you, Bernadette. This is the conversation which started quite a few weeks back, I think, at a luncheon meeting with Jess and Bernadette and myself. And this simple idea came up. All right, we are talking about a school. Oh, sorry. We were talking about a school. Why don't we make a beginning? And that's, why don't we have a state of practice conference? I couldn't believe that this is happening today. And the wonderful work of Bernadette, and she's relentlessly putting so much hard work into this to make this happen today. And the wonderful team of architects, and amazing work. What a range, what a range. I've been international, I've been traveled all around the world, seen presentations, and the kind of sensitivity to this, to architecture is something which is amazing, you guys. So I really thank Joseph, Andrew, let me get the names right. That's why I need this. Joseph, Andrew, and Peter. Wonderful work, Peter. I need to meet you because my interest lies there. And I'm as, where's the other gentleman? Jane. Oh, that project was fantastic. And Jasper, I love that school. I want to visit that school. I always wanted to visit the school. And wonderful work, guys. As a part of being part of Aura, I need to thank my management. That's Dan Mitchell, who wasn't able to be here. And Deb Young, who was here, I think she left a little bit early. And then we had, of course, you heard Robert DeRue, a wonderful HOD we have. Even though he's an aerospace engineer, he loves architecture. And he's actually, I can say he's fallen in love with architecture. No, he keeps on talking about our master's program all the time. And we made that happen in the last 1 year, I think. And he's doing really, really a great job and helping us. And I have to offer my gratitude on behalf of my school to Huya, the president of Kāhui Whaihanga, right? Am I pronouncing it right? Okay. NZIA. Daniel Sullivan, Canterbury Branch chair. Michael Smith, director, Canterbury Branch. And Jess. What a panel discussion. I love the project manager thing. Like the mortgage the banks invented, I think the architects invented the project manager. So don't blame anybody but the architects, all right? So we need to have a larger debate on that. And that was something which, wonderful thing, and we need to continue our conversation on that. Thank you very much, Jess, for that wonderful conversation you had with the team here and moderating this session. And hope I'm okay with the time. I have a visitor or a guest of honor today, architect Sebastian Razawal. Am I right? Did I pronounce it right? Razawal. Zawal, yes. And he is going to give a speech tomorrow. He's going to give a talk, Sir Ian Atfield Memorial Lecture in Christchurch. So I think all of you, I'm going to be there. I've booked it a long time back, so I'm going to be there. Thank you very much, sir, for coming here and honoring us. It will be lovely to listen to you tomorrow. I've mentioned very briefly about Bernadette and her team. Particularly, the backbone of this is Suru. Yeah. I don't really know where the energy is with this lady, but she did everything back end and she made this thing possible. Thank you, Sue, for all your effort, and we love you having it, Aura. Right. And my thanks goes to Jason of Visions, and wonderful food. And we love to have more and more meetings like this here. And I'm sure Nzadai will be happy with that. As a leader, I think I'll better read it because I wrote it from heart. As a leader of the architecture program here, I'm here 2 years old. I believe that connecting education and practice is crucial, and collaborative events like this make us realize how we grow, how we learn, and how we make sure the next generation of architects are ready to go. Now is the time for us to think, make a new thinking, and go forward, and continue this conversation and don't end here. The work we do together as a community of architects and educators will shape the future of our city. Because this is not going to stop here. And we got a place now. We got NZI with us, and we got ARA now. So we're going to do more and more of these conversations. And the wider region. I'm confident that the team that I have with me at ARA, at BAS, 2 ladies, one on the right, one on the left, Bernadette here, Irene on left. So both of them, and I'm in the middle. And I'm sure, I must tell you that our BAS is under review now. So we are working on a new BAS which will be delivered in 2026. And we all need our practices to contribute to that, which will lead to our major vision, which Huya and all my team wants to go forward with the master's program. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Kia ora, ngā mihi. Thank you, Adam. Huya, would you please, I'm going to hand over to Huya to formally close our event. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending. That's fantastic. As you know, I am absolutely behind and will tautoko any Canterbury Masters program and School of Architecture in Christchurch. I've got another year and a half to go in my tenure as Perehitini, and so I welcome you all to help tautoko this fantastic team, starting with tonight and hopefully future. Okay, let's end our kōrero session with a karakia. Whaia te tika, whaia te pono, whaia te oranga, atau ranga, kia putu ki te whaiao ki te ao marama. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e, kia ora.